So today for our daily cancellation, we're going to cancel everybody involved in the impeachment efforts currently underway in the House. The articles of impeachment released last night charged Donald Trump with incitement of insurrection and other crimes as well. Now, usually the daily cancellation is reserved for things that aren't very serious. This is a time for content that's maybe a bit more farcical than the rest of the show. And that's, in fact, actually why it's a good place to discuss the Democrats' second impeachment of Trump, which is indeed a farce, unserious, a political stunt. So here are the problems with impeaching Trump as far as I can see. At least two of the problems. First of all, no matter what you think of the fact that Trump was claiming voter fraud and the fact that he called for a rally in D.C. and the fact that he sent the crowd over to the Capitol building, you can't get around the fact that Trump did specifically call for a peaceful protest in his remarks to the crowd. You can check the transcript. I have. And here's what the transcript says. Here's what he said. "We have come to demand that Congress do the right thing and only count the electors who have been lawfully slated. I know that everyone here will soon be marching over to the Capitol building to peacefully and patriotically make your voices heard." That's what he said. Now, you might argue that he didn't really mean it. You might argue that he didn't really care what would happen. You can argue all that. You might be wrong. You might be right. But the fact still remains that he did explicitly and verbally call for a peaceful protest. We have seen lawmakers encourage violence and riots explicitly. We know what that sounds like. The Democratic state representative in Michigan a few weeks ago, we played that clip, calling on quote-unquote soldiers to find Trump supporters and, quote, make them pay. Okay? That if Trump had said to the crowd, find these lawmakers and make them pay, okay, now you got a case. That is obviously incitement. Ayanna Pressley, during the BLM riots, calling for more, quote, unrest in the streets. Once again, if Trump had said, go to the Capitol building and there needs to be unrest, if he had said, there has to be unrest at the Capitol building in order to prevent this from happening, once again, you have a case. Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez blasting the people who called for an end to the unrest, claiming that to call for an end to the unrest is to call for injustice to continue. That's what she said. Maxine Waters telling her supporters to track down Trump administration officials in public and to create a crowd and let them know they aren't welcome anywhere. Those are direct quotes. All of these and much more are examples of explicit incitement, direct incitement. And as it happens, all of the people guilty of it now support impeaching Trump for allegedly doing what they unquestionably have done themselves. If you want to argue that it's incitement, simply to get a potentially unruly crowd riled up with dubious claims and to send them out to sort of broadly fight for this or that, then again, the Democrats behind this impeachment would be guilty of the same. Even the ones who didn't explicitly endorse rioting were still spreading the false claims that fueled the riots and encouraging the rioters to continue the fight for social justice. So, before the Democrats can even begin to make a case for impeachment, all of those guilty of doing these things would need to admit their guilt and resign. That's what they would have to do. Do that first. Here's the deal that I would make if I had any power at all, which I don't. Do that first. If you're a Democrat and you were guilty of incitement yourself, by your own standard, guilty of it, by the standard you're now applying to Trump, if you did it yourself, resign. And then I'm willing to listen to the impeachment case from the 3 or 4 Democrats who remain in office. That should be the deal. If the Republicans had any sense, any backbone, any spine, that's what they would be saying. They should be saying, absolutely, let's get rid of everybody who's been guilty of inciting riots during this time of chaos and anarchy, because it's enough. We have to put an end to it. So let's get rid of all of them and let's start with you guys. That's what they should be saying. Second point, all that aside, or not aside, but at least, I make this point as an important addition to the previous. Donald Trump is out of office in a week, 7 days. That's it. He'll be gone regardless. And I would bet everything I own that Trump is not going to run again in 2024 at the age of 78 after all of this. I mean, he may say he will. He may make noises to that effect over the next 4 years, but I don't think he's really going to do it. So this is not even an effort to remove him from office. because he's going to be gone before the Senate trial can begin. And I don't buy that this is about stopping him from running again. In fact, I think the Democrats would love for Trump to run again. They're terrified of the prospect of having to exist now on their own without being able to define themselves by their opposition to Trump. They can't even remember what it was like to have a political ideology that wasn't defined by Trump. So this isn't about removing him from office, because again, he'll already be gone. And it isn't about stopping him from running again. This is rather symbolic. It is theater. It is impeachment as theater. And it's not the first time the Democrats have done it. The people who have pretended to be so concerned about norms and about protecting the democratic system and so on have now turned impeachment, which is an essential tool, into a meaningless, empty gesture. 2 presidents in nearly 250 years had been impeached before Trump. The Democrats have now impeached Trump twice in almost a year, meaning they've done it as many times in a year as every Congress in history had done it before this. They have doubled the number of impeachment in a year. They've doubled it. So that means it's been cheapened. The tool of impeachment has been cheapened to the point of uselessness. What this means now is that impeachment will be used commonly. If the opposing party controls the House, it'll be used just to make a political point, because that's what it's become now. What was once rare, what was once nearly unthinkable, will now be utterly commonplace, a matter of course. We have now 4 impeachments in 250 years. It was 2, now we have 4. The next 20 years, we'll probably see that many. We'll probably double it in another 20 years, if not more, because of what they've done with this tool of impeachment. And again, an essential tool. Now it means nothing because of what the Democrats have done, because they are using it as just symbolism. And that's why I think we should all be opposed to impeachment, no matter how you feel about Trump. That's why we should all be opposed. And that's why the Democrats are canceled. Listen, hit that subscribe button right now. Do it right now. I thank you for your compliance. It is somewhat appreciated.